What's going on, everyone? My name is Benjamin Noack. For those of you guys that don't know me, for those of you guys that do, thanks for coming back and watching another video. Now, I have some big smallmouth fishing videos coming out very shortly, but before I show you guys some smallmouth fishing videos, I want to talk to you guys about some baits I've been playing with and some stuff that I'm excited to throw around this fall. Now, this is some stuff I've been sitting on a while. It's some stuff that I have had some success with and played with, or it's a couple new baits that I've not thrown yet, but I'm excited to for the fall. So I'm calling this Gear Up for Fall Smallmouth Fishing because these are things that I'm excited to throw and I'm recommending to you guys to check out for the fall smallmouth smash fest that's going to be happening here pretty quickly. So we're going to start with a newer bait on the market. It's not one that I've thrown yet at all, but it is the new Duo Realis Alpha spy bait. It's a bigger profile spy bait. It's got a lot thicker body than your traditional spy bait, and it's a little bit heavier. What that means is you can throw this on a bait caster, and what I'm really excited about is I think it's going to help those fish key in on this bait even when it's not perfect spy bait weather. So I can throw this when those smallmouth are keying in on bait fish, when they're maybe keying on a swim bait pretty well and that bite shuts off. I'm excited to throw this around and see if it can't get bit. So comparing it to your traditional Duo Realis spin bait 80, this is the Alpha right here, and this is your traditional 80. Now, if you guys are not familiar with spy baiting, essentially what it is the art of silent capture. That is literally what spy baiting has been brought over as from Japan. But you cast it out, it sinks about a foot a second to depth, and you just really slowly turn the reel handle. Now, this is a Duo Realis Great Lakes series in the perch color, and if you're gonna buy a traditional spy bait and you're looking for that 80 size, which is, you know, this size right here, I would recommend buying the G-Fix model. Now, the G-Fix model and the traditional 80, the only real difference is castability. The 80 G-Fix casts a ton better than the traditional 80, falls at almost the exact same rate, tracks very true through the water column, but you can cast it a ton further. So if you're looking for a spy bait and you just want a traditional spy bait 80, go with the G-Fix model. They have a ton of great colors. I really like this perch color here. I like the Morning Dawn and the Emerald Shiner. Those are my favorite colors in the traditional spy bait 80. But I did pick up two colors of the new spin bait 72 Alpha. I believe this is the Grass Minnow and this is the Morning Dawn color. And these are just really good colors. They imitate bait fish. Basically, this looks like a little Emerald Shiner, and this looks very similar to an Emerald Shiner or like some other small bait fish coming through the water column. So I'm excited to throw that. I can throw it on like 10-pound test line on a bait caster, make really long casts, and I don't have to worry about this big fall smallmouth breaking me off, right? Like, I have a little bit more leverage on those fish when I'm fishing that bigger spin bait Alpha 80 or 72. Now, I do want to talk about hooks. Hooks are something you're going to need to replace on those baits after you catch a couple fish. I've been playing around with the Hayabusa treble hooks, and these are the treble TBL 930s, and that's basically just their standard treble hook. But what I really like is it comes with what's called the NRB coating. The NRB coating is essentially a slick coating over the hook, so it helps you hook those fish more easily. Now, this is the number 8 size, which I would use on that spin bait 80, or a number 6 size, which is what I would use on the spin bait Alpha 72. So check out those Hayabusa TBL 930s. They're very similar if you guys are familiar with the Gamakatsu G-Finesse hooks. They have that same style of coating. They're an awesome hook. Newer to the market, so you can get them for a decent price, and they're just a really good treble hook. Now we're going to talk about a bait that is new to me, but I've thrown around a couple times, and actually my buddy Hayden caught a bunch of big fish on this bait the last time we were out there fishing, and that is a tail spinner. Now, a tail spinner's been around for a long time, but essentially where a tail spinner shines is around schooling fish or around fish that are really aggressive and active. And what you're going to do is you're going to take this bait, and this is a Blade Runner in the 1/2 ounce. I have it in both the 1/2 ounce and the 1 ounce size. You're going to make a long cast, let it sink all the way to the bottom, and the way that I like to fish it is you're going to basically pulse that rod. The same way I was doing with that lipless crankbait this spring. You're going to lift this bait up off the bottom, the spinner is going to spin, then when it goes back down, it's going to spin again, right? So you're basically just lifting and dropping, lifting and dropping, lifting and dropping. And around those schooling fish that can really get those fish to fire, and it's a really good bait that they may not have seen before. Now there's a ton of ways you can fish this bait. You can just take it and make a long cast, let it sink to the bottom and slow reel it. You can pulse it. You can basically do a ton of different things with this bait, but that lift and drop retrieve is what I've found to be effective so far in my couple times that I've taken it out there and fished. You're going to say, well, Ben, there is no hook on that bait. You're right. So what it is it is a line through bait. You're going to put your bait or your line through the bait, and then out the bottom is where you're going to tie on a treble hook. But I have one rigged up right here. It's not just a treble hook. You're also going to put a bobber stop and a bead. And what that's going to do, it's going to give you separation. So I'm going to try to rig this back through. Essentially what it's going to do, it's going to give you separation, hook from the bait, and when you set the hook, this bait can slide up your line, so it's going to make that fish have less leverage on your hook, less opportunity to throw your hook when they bite. So that's something I really like about these line through versions. The line through version to me is the way to go if you're going to go with a blade tail spinner. Now there are a bunch of other models out there. I know Megabass makes one. This is one by Lunker Hunt in a 1-ounce size, but there's a ton of different models. If you have a choice, I recommend checking out the Blade Runners or the Wahoos or any of the styles that have that line through model. That line through to me is going to land you a lot more fish, and it's a bait that you're fishing around schooling fish. So you're going to get a lot of bites on it typically, and the more you can land, the better opportunity you have to catch a giant. So when those fish are schooling up in the fall, take either a half or 1-ounce size, cast it out there, lift, drag, drop, whatever you got to do. Get these fish to bite this bait. You're going to catch a ton of big fish on this. Now, basically the way I choose my size is by feel. So I don't want to overweight the bait, so I want to go with the lightest bait possible. So if I can feel that bait on the bottom when I go to lift it, I'm plenty fine. As long as I have feeling of that bait on the bottom, that's the size I want to go with. Typically that's a 1/2 ounce size down to about 20 feet. If I'm deeper than 20 foot of water, I'll tend to go up to the 1-ounce size. I just feel like that's really that cutoff for me when I switch sizes, but it's really going to depend on feel. So play with that a little bit. If you want, get your hands on a Blade Runner tail spinner, go out there, and I hope you guys catch some giants on those baits. Now the next is a bait you guys saw me throw on Lake St. Clair a little bit this summer, a bait that I struggled with for a little bit trying to keep those fish pinned, and that is a Wobble Head. Now Wobble Head is nothing new to the market. It's been on the market for a long time, but I'm just learning it, right? So it's a bait that we all kind of know about, but it's something I've never really thrown. So the head that I'm using is actually the Mustad Fast Hatch hook, and what that is basically it is a loose wobble head that you can attach a hook to. So let me find one in here. This is just the head, and it's got this hook keeper on there where you thread the hook onto it. So you get to choose what style hook you want, what size hook you want. So for the hook for this one, I went with a Hayabusa Worm 959. What that is it is a wide gap, heavy duty, traditional worm hook. Now what I like about this bait, why I like this hook for a wobble head, is because there's actually an offset between the point of the hook and where your line is. So what that's going to allow you to do is get a better hookup ratio. It's going to give those fish more of an opportunity to actually get the hook as compared to traditional treble hooks. So this is a Hayabusa 959. This also has that slit coating on it, the NRB coating, and it's going to help you pin and get a lot more fish in the boat. Now the reason I went with that heavy duty hook, you're putting it on a heavy bait, 3/4, 1.5 ounce bait, and you're fishing it on really heavy tackle. I'm fishing it on 17-pound test fluorocarbon, 7'6", basically a heavy rod. And you're really setting the hook into those fish, so you don't want an opportunity for that hook to flex. So I really like that heavy duty hook. That's why I went with the 959. They also have a standard model, which is the 956, if you don't feel like you need all the power of that heavy duty hook. Now what bait am I putting on that? Now if you guys watch my videos, you've seen me fish this bait a decent bit. This is pretty much exclusively the bait that I'm throwing on that wobble head right now, and this is a Reaction Innovations Spicy Beaver. This is green pumpkin. They also have a lot of really good colors, like Electric Shad is a really good one. I believe it's Sungill is a really good one, and they make some other really cool colors that would look great on the back of a wobble head, but when you're fishing around gobies and perch and anything down there on the bottom, a green pumpkin bait really can't go wrong with. So the Spicy Beaver also features this little, I guess it's an extra wide gap hook keeper style thing. That's going to help your bait stay up on that hook. A lot of really cool features about this bait. Kicks really hard, moves a lot of water, has a similar profile to like your standard Strike King Rage Bud. And so it's a bait that I've fallen in love with, especially on the back of the Wobble Head, and it just flat out gets bit. It also has a really thin profile. Another big thing is finding a bait that has a thin profile, so when those fish eat it, it can collapse down around that hook. And those fish can actually get good hook penetration. You can keep those fish pinned a little bit better. So this is just something I've been playing with. I really enjoy throwing it on the back of the Wobble Head, and it's put a lot of big smallmouth in the boat for me. It's something I'm excited about for the fall, because when those fish start pushing up on those rock flats, when they start pushing up onto those rock piles and feeding on bait really heavy, I want something that I have confidence in, that I'm going to hook those fish and land those fish and get them in the boat, because it could be the difference between catching a PB 7-pounder and catching, you know, just a standard schooling 2.5-pound smallmouth. And now we're going to talk about something I'm very excited about, and that is drop shotting. Drop shotting is a technique that I know bores a lot of people, but I really enjoy to fish, especially when we're in that like late summer situation all the way into, you know, late fall. A drop shot just flat out catches fish. When these fish are coming in from that deep water, a drop shot just catches them. And now this is something I have a lot of faith in, and that is a drop shot hook. If you guys remember last fall, I have been going through a phase where I lost a bunch of drop shot fish. I was trying a bunch of different hooks. Now this isn't to say these hooks won't work for you guys, but I tried an owner cover shot. I tried a Mustad VMC or Mustad Nikko Titan hook. I tried a whole bunch of different hooks, and this is the one I landed on. This is the VMC Nikko hook, size 2. This size for me is perfect for what I'm looking for. It's got a longer shank, and it actually reminds me a lot of the owner mosquito hook 1/0 size that I was fishing for a long time. The key to that is this really long shank, so when those fish bite your bait, they can get this hook just a little bit deeper, and it's got an offset to the bend of that eye, and that really helps keep those fish pinned. This is a hook that I believe in a lot, and it just has caught and landed me a ton of big fish. I've only lost one fish that I can really think of on this hook, and basically what had happened was that my drag wasn't set properly. So when I hooked that fish, he pulled really hard and straightened the hook out. So had I not had that drag set so tight, he probably wouldn't have bent my hook out, and he probably would have had a monster in the boat. So that VMC Nikko hook size 2 has been the deal for my drop shot techniques, and it's something I really love. What I also like is that you can use a bunch of different baits with it. You don't just have to nose hook baits. You can thread them on there. You can do a whole bunch of different things with that hook, and it keeps those baits pinned on the hook pretty well. Now we're going to talk about some baits that I have some confidence in, some things I've played with over the last year, not given a ton of credit to, but have caught me a lot of fish, and that is the Berkley Power Bait Max Scent flatworms. These flatworms are the deal. They remind me a lot of the Berkley or the Bass Magnet Lures Twitch in shape, and they just have a ton of action. But I think the biggest thing is that scent. If you guys have never smelled Berkley Power Bait, it smells, in my opinion, fantastic. It smells terrible, but it's, especially with smallmouth, important to have a bait that has a lot of scent to it. So this Berkley Power Bait Max Scent is something I have a lot of faith in. And my two favorite colors are the Mango Magic and they call it brownback. It's essentially a brownback with a white belly. When they're feeding on gobies, this is a really good color. Another good one is Smoke Purple Black, I believe. Another really good color when they're feeding on gobies, and a little bit of off-colored water. So that Berkley Power Bait Max Scent, ooh, it's a tongue twister, in the flatworm is a great drop shot bait, and if you guys haven't tried it, I recommend going out, picking yourselves up a pack, and try it and see if you guys enjoy it. Now these last two are some baits I fished very limited. I've only fished them one time out, and they were kind of re-released or released at iCast. This one here is the 13 Fishing Vertigo Minnow, and this is the Jackal Eye Shad. This Jackal Eye Shad is actually something that came out a long time ago. They just reintroduced it, and it's selling out everywhere. It's a bait that is notorious for being a fantastic drop shot bait. So I'm excited to have my hands on a pack of these to try out. But what makes it so such a good drop shot bait. The nose, you nose hook this thing, and that tail just goes crazy. I don't know if you guys can see it, but I'm trying to hold this bait steady. That tail doesn't sit still. It's just a little, you know, ribbed back with a, comes to a point there. When you rig this on a drop shot, it just keeps moving, has a ton of action underwater, and drives fish crazy. This is the Prism Shad color. Prism Shad is kind of just a color that I have a lot of confidence in. It looks like a lot of our minnows, looks like some of the gobies, and so Prism Shad was the color that I decided to pick out because it really imitates the forage really well. And I think that's key with drop shotting. You want to get as close to what the forage looks like as possible because those fish have a long time to come over and look at it. Sometimes you have to flip it out there, watch them on your live scope, and they'll come over to it and sit there and just kind of nose it, and they're like, that looks just about right, and about 30 seconds after you drop that bait down there, they'll come over and eat it. Well, that's why I'm trying to really match the hatch with those baits, because when those fish get a good look at it, you want something that actually looks like the real thing. Now, the 13 fishing vertical minnow is something that I was kind of hesitant about, but I really like. This is a bait that has a ton of action, it's super soft, and it just really imitates the forage really well. So if your fish are on bait, if they're on bait fish, this is going to be a really good bait. So the fish that we were catching the other day were feeding on walleye minnows, and this bait I actually pulled out of my box because it looks almost identical to what those juvenile walleye were looking like, right? It's got that greenish brown back, it's got a clear translucent belly with a little bit of gold flake, and it just looks exactly like those walleye minnows. What is also really cool is how soft this bait is. This bait is incredibly soft, which means it's going to have a lot of action down there underwater, and it feels like a hand pour, but I know it's not. They call it precision hand pour. It's basically mechanized hand pour, so you get the softness of a hand pour worm with the quality that you would get from injection molding. Super soft drop shot bait, has a ton of action. When you put this thing nose hooked on a drop shot, that tail, which has a little paddle on it, actually kicks side to side, and it really entices those fish to bite. So if you haven't yet, check out these 13 fishing vertigo minnows. They're awesome. The fish love them. I've only fished them for a limited amount of time, but Flat Out catches fish, so go check those out. No affiliation to any of these companies. I just wanted to talk to you about some of my hot new products that I'm excited to fish going into the fall. You know, you have your drop shot, smallmouth staple. You have Wobble Head, a bait along the bottom that draws a lot of attention to it, makes a lot of noise. Then you have a tail spinner, great for schooling fish, great for active fish. And finally, you have a bait for high pressure situations in that spy bait. Basically the whole gamut of what you would need to catch fall smallmouth bass. So if you guys have any questions or comments, please let me know in the comment section below. If you have any recommendations for baits I need to be checking out this fall, again, comment section below. I check that, I read that, or try to respond to as much as I possibly can. And I really appreciate all your support. Hit that subscribe button if you're not already. And as always, thank you guys for watching. Take care, tight lines. God bless. Pursue passion.